everyone, this is Liz from Adult Services. I'd like to welcome you to our Fox Lake District Library craft video. In this video we're going to be doing a quick tutorial on creating paper book page roses. This has been one of the favorite craft programs we've had, and I'm so glad that all of you have joined me today to learn how to make them. Excuse me. To start off with this craft, just decide which book you want to use. It can be any title that's old, falling apart. In this case, I've got three choices: an old romance novel, an encyclopedia of cacti, and an old children's graphic novel on a little cat called Chi. For this one, I'm going to go with the basic black and white book page. Then the only thing I'll need besides that are my 11 centimeter by 11 centimeter template, a pen, a wooden skewer that I'd use for barbecuing, baking. If you don't have a skewer at home, you can use a toothpick, a pencil, pretty much anything that's about this width. I also have tacky glue, scissors, and just a little bit of Scotch tape. So the first part, step one, my favorite, just start ripping pages out of your book. We need 3 pages for this, so go ahead, pick any one you like, and give it a good yank so it tears right out of the book. This is probably the only time a library staff member is going to tell you to rip pages out of the book, so go for it and have fun. Alright, if you did choose a book that has graphic images you'd like to show up to give more color to your petals, such as the pages of the cacti book or the graphic novel, excuse me, be aware that as the project progresses with folding and cutting, the image itself on the page will not be preserved on the petal of your roses. For example, I did make this rose out of the graphic novel pages, and you can see it doesn't really save the image itself, it just gives you little glimpses along the flower. Now that I have my pages torn out, I'm just going to trace the template. You can put this anywhere on the page you like if you want a little bit of more white space, or if you want a little more text. Alright, so once I've got it traced out on one, I'm just going to repeat that on the next 2 pages. And then just the last page. So don't worry about being too neat, just as long as you get that 11 centimeter by 11 centimeter square, you'll be just fine. Okay, now that I've traced out my template on all 3 pages, I'm just going to cut them out real quick. So not only is the library staff telling you to go ahead and rip pages out of the book, we're also telling you to then cut those pages up. So this is a pretty cool project. If you don't want to use book pages, you can use other types of paper for this, including wrapping paper, food ads, newspaper, scrapbooking paper. Just as I said, bear in mind, it does not preserve perfect images as you fold and cut. So don't stress yourself out trying to make sure you get an exact image on your flower, as odds are it won't stay by the end. Alright, now I've got all 3 squares cut out of the book pages, and I'm ready to start crafting the petals of the flower. Now, for your first square, you're just going to fold it diagonally to create a triangle. Oops. Just get those 2 corners lined up, just like so, and crease. And then we're going to take this same triangle and fold it in half one more time. Just like so. So we have a smaller triangle, and then we're going to fold it one last time to create one more triangle. Just like so. So then we'll repeat that on each page. So all 3 squares will get folded 3 times to create a triangle. If at any point you want to pause the video, please feel free. There's no rush. Take this craft at your own pace and just have a good time. So we've got the second square folded, and then we're just going to do our last square. A quick one, two, and 3. Now, since this was the last one I folded, I'm just going to start with this one. Now, it's turned it towards you, so the point is facing towards you, and then you've got your folded edge right here along your right-hand side. Then taking your pen, starting here on the fold, just draw a U shape. Oops, right across, and then ending down here right on the left-hand side. So I'm going to make that nice and dark so it's a little bit easier to see. Just making a nice big upside down U horseshoe shape that's starting on my fold and coming right across. And I'm going to take my scissors and just cut off along that line so it gets rid of this little edge right here at the top. Now, excuse me. This will create the edge of my petals. You can make this line deeper or higher up depending on the depth of the petals you want. There's no right or wrong. It's entirely up to you. My suggestion is, as you're crafting these flowers, try doing it at different depths along the triangle to see the results and to create a unique bouquet of different blooms. Now that we've completed one, I'm just going to take my next triangle, making sure I've got the point facing towards me, the folded edge along my right-hand side, and I'm just going to put the one I cut on top of it and use it as a template to trace that same line in the same position along the second square. Just like so. And I will do the same thing to this third one. That way all my petals will have the same depth. So make sure you're just lining up your folded edges and points and then using your first cut as a template for your next 2. Now that that's done, I'm just going to cut them off. All right. Then I'm just going to pick one of the 3, and you're going to want to take this little point here at the bottom and measure about 1/4 of an inch or so, just a little bit to take the tip off. Doesn't have to be exact, it's entirely up to you, but just that little bitty tip, and go ahead and snip it off. Then, just like before, we're going to use that first one as a template to line it up and cut off just the tip of the other 2 full triangles. And as you can see, when you cut off the tips, they do like to fly everywhere. No worries about that. Now we're going to unfold each of the 3 groups, and it's going to create this cute little daisy pattern. Each triangle will end up with 8 petals and a little hole in the middle. Oh yay! We are halfway through, and now we just have to do the final touches on forming the petals of our rose. So for our first petal group, oops, each petal is where you can see the fold lines here, like so, and like so. So I'm just going to mark off 1 petal on the first group, and then 2 right here on the second, and then 1, 2, 3 on the third. So it's a straightforward 1, 2, 3 on your groupings. And then I'm just going to cut out those petals that I marked off, making sure that I don't cut, the 2 and 3 groups separate. I want to leave those together. So I'm not going to cut these 2 out separate. I'm just going to cut along this line and then this second one. So I'm left with a group of 2 petals together. And the same for the third. I'm just going to cut here and then right here on this edge. It does not matter which group of 1, 2, or 3 petals you cut out along the entire petal grouping. Just make sure that they do remain connected. You don't want to cut out 3 individual petals, but the entire group of 3. Okay. Now that we've got them all cut out, I'm going to take them and refold them so that they're all folding the same direction. Just like so, so they come together. And on this one, I'm going to refold so they're all coming to the inside. This way, when we construct the rows, they'll sit together properly. Alright, so now that we've refolded, you can see how the pages are naturally starting to come together. That's perfect, exactly what we want to see happening. I'm going to take just a little smidge of Scotch tape. I'm going to start with my largest petal group. Just putting the tape right here along the edge of the petal, and then bringing the next one together just so that they touch but they don't overlap. And then smooth it down so it creates a little circle. Again, excuse me everyone. I'm going to repeat that step for every petal group except for the 1 and 2 petals. I'm going to put them to the side. So just put your Scotch tape right on the edge and then bring it together just so they're touching. You don't want to overlap them and have it like so. We want to make sure that you still have all your petals distinct. If there's a bit of overlap, it's not going to ruin things. Just try and keep them as close to touching as possible. Oops. So you see I screwed that one up. I'm just going to take it apart, and there we go. And the last one is the 3 petal group. Just going to bring him together. All right. Now, excuse me, we're going to give the petals a little bit of shape by using the skewer to curl the edges. So just bring it to the edge and then let it wrap around the skewer, right, and give it a little flick to curl. And this is where your original cuts will show more depth of petal, as you can get more curl or less. It is entirely up to you. Every flower in nature is different and unique in its own way, and so our book roses also will be unique and different in their own way, no two exactly alike. And we are going to repeat this process for all the petal groups until they are all fully curled. Okay, so I'm curling the last of my petal groups right here with my largest 7-petal group. And then I'm going to take my 1 and 2 petal groups, and these are going to be curled in on themselves. So I'm just going to take the 2 petal and place it on the skewer and then just start wrapping it around. Oops. So it gets a nice solid curl. And then once it's wrapped all the way around the skewer, just going to grab the end and flick out so it gets a nice tight curl. And then together these 1 and 2 groups will be the center of my flower. Just going to wrap it around just like so, and then flick it out, and it creates a nice tight curl in on itself. Now that we've curled all the petals, we're ready to start assembling. You can use pretty much any glue for this, but I do recommend using tacky glue. It has a great hold, dries clear. It's what we use here at the library during the projects. So you're going to take your largest petal group and then your second largest. Go ahead and flip your second largest over. Oops. Your 6 petals, and just give it a nice generous layer of glue right along the bottom of the flowers. So you can see it's a nice generous portion. And then I'm just going to place it inside the 7-petal group. Try and place your petals off center so the petals of the inside group hit the corners of the group below it. That'll give you a more full, natural looking rose. And then I'm just going to give it a little pinch at the bottom to get it to stay. And I'm going to turn it upside down and let it sit on the table for a minute to let it start to dry and bond together. Now we're going to repeat this process, just going from to the next largest group, and give that one a nice solid layer of glue. And I'm going to flip this one over and then just repeat the process, trying to keep it a little bit off center. And then just giving it a little bit of a pinch around the base so it stays and it starts bonding. I'm going to flip it over again and just let gravity kind of pull it together and bond it at the bottom. Oops. We're down to our 3-petal group. And give it a nice generous dollop of glue, and then we're going to stick you right in the center and just give it a little bit of a push down with your index finger in the middle, just gently, and you'll see it start to push just a little bit out on the bottom. That's perfect. It's holding together, and we're just going to flip it over and let it sit for a minute. So you're getting this nice little bit of stem line right here at the bottom as the smaller ones start to poke through the larger petal groupings. And we are at the very end. We're going to take our 2 petals that we curled earlier, give them a little bit of glue on the bottom. Just gently flip our rose and go ahead and stick that one right in the center there. Let it curl a little bit. So we got a nice go. And I'm going to flip you over one more time. Let it sit for just a moment so it starts to dry a little bit and set up. And while that's drying, I'm going to take our last single petal, give it a little smidge of glue at the bottom. And I'm going to tuck it in, and I'm going to put it right here along this side. There's no exact way to put it in these last couple, so if you feel like you've got an area that's a little bit empty, go ahead, put it in there. And then that's it. Our flower has been fully assembled and we completed our project. If you do want to add a stem to your rose, there are multiple options. You can use the same wooden skewer you used for curling the petals. You can also wrap floral tape around a couple widths of floral wire to form a green stem. You can use a very thin wire coat hanger or any thin wire. The plastic stem from another bouquet of artificial flowers you may have around the house. Pretty much anything, as long as you're looking at a width of the wooden skewer. Anything about this width will work. So if you choose to go create your own with floral tape and wire, use the wooden skewer, it is entirely up to you. For this one, I'm going to use the sample rose that I made before since this one is fully dried. Hot glue does work best for this, for adding the stem, so you're just going to put a dab of hot glue on the end of the stem and then pass the stem through the middle of the rose, keeping the glued portion at the very top, which will then catch on the paper as it passes through, and you'll have your flower attached to a stem. Just that easy. So as you see, this is a very versatile project. I've got two completely different roses that were made from pages from the same book. I've got this cute little one that was made from pages out of the graphic novel. You can use old maps, wrapping paper, any old book. Whatever your style is, whatever colors you feel best reflect you, by all means go for it. Just make sure that it is a book you're comfortable taking apart and taking pages out of before you start working with it. I hope you guys had as much fun with this video as I had creating the roses with you. I look forward to seeing everything you guys have created and hope you'll share pictures with the library of your masterpieces. Thanks!